Ever try shouting a secret across a crowded room? It's nearly impossible, right? You're battling a symphony of distractions. Chattering voices, clinking glasses, maybe even a rogue saxophone solo.
I've been there. You're lucky if even one or two words survive the journey.
Now imagine needing to send that message, not across a room, but through the airwaves, across continents, even to the moon and back. That's the challenge communication systems face.
And that's what makes Claude Shannon's 1948 paper, A Mathematical Theory of Communication, so significant.
It's a cornerstone, for sure. You, our listener, wanted to take a deep dive into this paper, and for good reason. This paper underpins the entire digital age.
We're talking about the fundamental principles of how information is transmitted and received.
So we'll be your guides as we delve into Shannon's world. We're going to tackle some fascinating stuff, how he redefined information itself.
His model for communication systems is still relevant today, even in our world of instant communication.
Absolutely. And we'll unravel how he found ways to combat that pesky noise that loves to mess with our signals.
And trust me, his solutions are as elegant as they are groundbreaking.
Okay, so first things first. How did Shannon even define information?
Yeah.
Because it's not as simple as just, words having meaning.
You're right. It's a bit more nuanced than that. He shifted the focus away from what we're saying to that we're choosing what to say at all. Think of it like this. You have a box full of different colored scarves. Picking one to wear each day is sending a message.
So it's not about the scarf itself, but the fact that I had like a turquoise option, a fiery orange one.
Precisely. The more choices you have, the more information your final selection conveys.
And to quantify this, Shannon used a rather elegant tool.
Logarithms, specifically in units called bits.
Bits, of course. It always comes back to bits in the digital world. But why logarithms? They always seemed a bit, mysterious back in math class.
They might seem mysterious at first, but logarithms beautifully capture this essence of choice. Imagine a simple light switch, on or off. 2 possibilities. That's 1 bit of information.
So if I had, say, 4 lamps, each with its own switch, that'd be 4 bits. More choices, more information.
You got it. Scale that up to the digital world, transistors flipping between states, each flip representing a bit. Shannon recognized that base 2 logarithms were the most efficient way to describe these systems.
Because it's all about those on-off states, those binary choices, 0 or 1, yes or no. It's the language of computers.
Exactly. And while other bases have their uses, base 2 is at the heart of how we represent information digitally.
So we've got information defined. We have a way to measure it. But how does it actually travel from point A to point B? This is where Shannon's communication system model comes in, right?
Absolutely. He broke down any communication system into 5 crucial parts.
Hit me with them.
The source, the transmitter, the channel, the receiver, and finally, the destination.
Okay, let's break that down. Let's say I'm sending a text message. Would I, the texter, be the source?
Precisely. You're the originator of the message.
And my phone, the one desperately trying to make sense of my autocorrect mishaps, would be the
transmitter. It converts your message, your brilliant prose, into a signal that can be sent. A series of electrical pulses zipping through the network.
which would be the channel in this case, right?
Mm-hmm.
The cellular network itself. All those towers and cables working hard to deliver my oh-so-important message about, let's say, what to have for dinner.
Precisely. And at the other end, your friend's phone diligently beeping away is the...
Stever. Decoding those electrical signals back into readable text.
They're finally the destination. Hopefully a very hungry friend eager to hear your dinner suggestions.
Okay, that's actually pretty intuitive. But I bet it's not always smooth sailing in the world of signal transmission. I mean, there's always something trying to mess things up, right?
Yeah, you're right, there is. And Shannon, he didn't shy away from tackling that head on.
Cue the ominous music. Because we're talking about noise.
Ah, noise. The eternal foe of clear communication.
We've all experienced it, right? That crackle on a phone line. The dreaded buffering symbol on a video call.
Exactly. Any unwanted addition to the signal that distorts the message.
Like when your Wi-Fi decides to drop out right as you're about to win an online game.
Ah, the worst. But Shannon, he was careful to distinguish between distortion and noise.
Okay, help me wrap my head around that. What's the difference?
So distortion, it's a predictable change, like a slight echo on a phone line. Often we can compensate for that.
Kind of like noise-canceling headphones, but for your phone calls.
Yeah.
Filtering out that consistent hum.
Exactly. But noise, that's the unpredictable one. It's random. like static on a radio or those weird pixelations you get on video calls sometimes.
Makes you wonder what secrets are hidden in that static. But I digress.
It's that randomness, that unpredictability that really throws a wrench in the works because it introduces uncertainty, and that's where the concept of equivocation comes in.
Equivocation. Sounds a tad dramatic, doesn't it? Like a word Shakespeare would use in a play.
Well, it is a measure of something's gone wrong, but in a very specific way. Equivocation quantifies the uncertainty that noise adds to our communication.
Okay, so it's not just that a message might have errors, it's that we don't even know how many or where they might be.
Exactly. Let's go back to your text message example. Let's say there's a tiny chance, 1%, that each letter gets randomly scrambled during transmission.
So like 99% accuracy. Sounds pretty good to me. What's the big deal about a few jumbled letters?
It's not just about the errors themselves. Think about the uncertainty they introduce. Imagine receiving a message that says, "Meet me at the cat at 2 p.m."
Hold on, is that cat supposed to be cafe? Or did park get scrambled? Suddenly that 1% error rate makes the entire message unreliable.
You've got it. Even a small chance of error can make us doubt the entire message. It's like playing a game of telephone where every now and then someone throws in a completely random word.
It would drive you crazy. You'd start questioning everything.
And that's where Shannon's work takes a remarkable turn. He showed that we don't have to just accept defeat in the face of noise.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
I always thought noise was just an unavoidable fact of life. Like taxes and awkward silences in elevator rides.
There's hope. Shannon proved that even a noisy channel, it still has a speed limit, a maximum rate at which we can send information reliably. He called this the channel capacity.
So there's a limit to how fast we can go, even if there's no noise at all. Like even the best, cleanest channel has a speed limit.
Think of it like driving down a road, right? There's a speed limit based on curves, visibility, the condition of the road itself. You might be able to go faster, but it's risky. You have to adapt to the constraints of the road to get to your destination safely.
Okay, I'm starting to see. So it's not about eliminating noise altogether, but finding a way to live with it, to work around its unpredictable nature.
Exactly. And this is where Shannon's big idea of efficient coding comes in. It's about getting smart with how we package and send information, even when we know noise is lurking out there.
Okay, I've got to ask, when you say efficient coding, are you picturing tiny little code words like whispering secrets to each other to avoid detection by the noise gremlins?
That's a fun image, but let's make it a bit more concrete. Imagine you have a communication channel where the letter S is particularly prone to distortion.
Poor S, always getting lost in the shuffle.
Exactly. With efficient coding, you'd use the letter S less often. Maybe substitute it with a combination of other letters that are less prone to errors, even if it makes the message a bit longer.
So it's like we're creating a slightly altered version of language itself, carefully avoiding the tricky parts that tend to get lost or misinterpreted along the way.
Now you're getting it. And the beauty of Shannon's work is that he didn't just wave his hands and say, do this. He gave us the mathematical tools to figure this out, to find that optimal balance between minimizing errors and minimizing the time it takes to send a message.
That's seriously impressive. So even with noise lurking around every corner, there's a way to communicate reliably. It's like finding a secret path through a noisy jungle.
You could say that. And to really illustrate this, Shannon used a simplified example in his paper. A communication channel with just 3 symbols, and he added some noise into the mix. It's figure 11 if you want to take a look.
Oh, you mean the one with the symbols A, B, and C, where A always makes it through perfectly, but B and C, they're prone to getting flipped around.
The very same.
It's like our poor, often misunderstood S from earlier, prone to getting lost in the noise.
Exactly. But here's where it gets really cool. By strategically choosing how often you use each symbol, you can actually transmit information through the channel with incredible accuracy, even with all that flipping going on.
So we're essentially playing the odds, strategically using the more reliable symbols more often to compensate for the inherent randomness of the channel.
You got it. And that, my friend, is the heart of Shannon's channel coding theorem.
Lay it on me.
This theorem states that it's possible to transmit information reliably through a noisy channel. But, and this is a big but, only as long as the transmission rate is below the channel's capacity.
Okay, so kind of like that speed limit we were talking about earlier.
Precisely.
Wow. It's mind-blowing to think this all stemmed from a theoretical paper published way back in 1948.
And yet it's so relevant even today. Shannon's work wasn't just about improving radio transmissions or building better phones.
Though I'm sure those things were welcome side effects.
Absolutely. His insights had far-reaching impacts, revolutionizing fields like computer science, linguistics, even cryptography.
It's like he provided this entirely new framework for thinking about information.
Exactly.
So, having taken this deep dive into information theory, how do you see communication differently now?
It definitely makes you more aware of the challenges inherent in every interaction. We often take for granted how much shared context we rely on, unspoken assumptions. It's not always about the literal words themselves.
That's a really good point. We've all had those moments where a perfectly clear message gets totally misconstrued just because of different interpretations or unspoken assumptions, like you said.
It's like Shannon's theory, playing out in our everyday lives. The noise isn't always external. Sometimes it's our own internal biases, our own perspectives coloring how we interpret the message.
So true. And if we take that idea further and consider language itself as a kind of noisy channel, I mean, think about it. Language is constantly evolving.
Being shaped by cultural influences, individual experiences, even just the limitations of vocabulary.
It makes you realize just how much complexity there is in even the simplest exchange.
But that's part of the beauty of it too, right?
Absolutely. That despite these inherent challenges, the potential for miscommunication, we still find ways to connect, to share ideas, to build relationships, even with all the noise.
It really makes you appreciate the human drive to connect, to communicate.
Well said. It seems Shannon's work has given us a new lens, not just for understanding the technology of communication, but for understanding the very essence of human interaction.
A new way of appreciating the delicate dance of information, noise, and interpretation in every single interaction.
Well, dear listener, as we wrap up our deep dive into the fascinating world of information theory, we hope you're leaving with a sense of wonder for the elegant framework that governs how information flows all around us.
And maybe next time you encounter a drop call, a garbled message, instead of getting frustrated, you'll think of Claude Shannon and his groundbreaking work.
To communicate effectively, even in a world that's brimming with information and, yes, noise.
Until next time, may your signals be strong, your noise minimal, and your conversations insightful.
See you next time.